Hello, everybody. I'm particularly excited today to show these realistic Nova-15 vintage speakers that I got at the Restore recently. I paid either $5 or $10 for the pair of them, I don't know which. And I have not tested these yet. All I've done so far is I've wiped them down and I've examined them to be in pretty good shape. The wood grain veneer cabinets are okay on them, certainly good enough for me. This one's got some chips on it and some scratches. The other ones, unfortunately, it must have sat in some water possibly. It's a little bit swollen in the corner there. But on the whole, these things are in fine shape. Certainly fine enough to work perfectly. And I really love how these look. I'm pretty excited because I can use these here in the living room connected to the white trash hi-fi stack, where I have currently been using these speakers. These are the speakers I've been using with the white trash hi-fi stack. They are Sanyo model AD717 speakers, and these are probably from the late 80s, early 90s, and they probably came with one of those all-in-one sort of cheap mini hi-fi systems that look like a component system, but they're not. These probably came with one of those. Sanyo made a lot of them. And these have been perfectly fine speakers. They are cheap speakers. And despite their size, they're actually very low power speakers. These are only rated for 5 watts each, but 5 watts is perfectly fine, enough to fill a room with very loud sound. And yeah, I've always thought these speakers sounded perfectly fine. You can see they've got a very cute, what is that, probably a 4-inch driver in them. They've got a bass port above. It's kind of funny how large these are. These are actually larger than the realistic Nova-15s, but they've got such a comparatively tiny driver in them. But the cabinet makes a lot of difference. The best driver in the world won't sound good without a good cabinet. And so these nice big cabinets, even with those small drivers, they sound pretty nice, at least fine enough to me. I don't consider myself to be an audiophile, at least not in the modern sense. But to my ears, these sound pretty good. But I was pretty excited to find these because they are much, much, much more substantial than the Sanyo speakers. And the realistic Nova-15s were sold from 1985 to 89. And in that era of Radio Shack, their high-end speakers were the Optimus line, and they ranged anywhere from $100 to $250 per speaker. And then their sort of budget / value line were the Minimus small speakers, and then the MC series and the Nova series of larger speakers. And at this time, the Nova-15s, these speakers, they were the best of the budget speakers, and they are quite substantial. The cabinet's pretty nice, wood veneer on top of probably plywood or something of that sort. And these are actually rated for 60 watts a piece, so more than an order of magnitude more power than the Sanyos, even though these are a slightly smaller case. They are much heavier than the Sanyo speakers. Catalog number is 40-4034, 60 watts max. They are 8 ohms. Custom manufactured in Japan for Radio Shack, a division of Tandy Corporation. These were probably made by a company called Foster, who made a lot of Radio Shack's audio equipment. 7A4, so these were made in 1984 actually. They debuted in the 1985 catalog, which would have come out in 1984. So these are a very early run of the Nova-15 speakers. Got your spring terminals. The Sanyos have a permanently attached cord. This one I had to extend with a couple of old extension cords to make it reach as far as I needed it to. But yeah, these are pretty nice. And Yeah, these are so much more substantial. Just as speakers go in general, these are pretty darn substantial. I mean, a lot of people, uh, consider realistic to have been uh, cheap stuff of their time. I really don't think so. They made a lot of really decent hi-fi grade stuff, at least on the low end of what you'd consider hi-fi. The uh, the front comes off, which is very nice. You pull a little strap here, and they just pull off. They're just held on by friction. And there's what we've got inside. Look at that. We have an 8-inch woofer and a 2.5-inch real active tweeter. Paper cone for the tweeter, paper cone for the woofer, and the woofer's got kind of this weird fabric material, very stiff fabric material for the surround. Very, very nice. Now, here's the thing. And we're going to take one of these woofers out and see what the information is printed on the magnet. I'm very interested to see, because I don't think these are the original woofers. Both units have these woofers in them and the same tweeters as well. But every picture of realistic Nova-15 speakers I find on the internet, they have different woofers. They have a black woofer with a foam surround that rots, and that's the problem with these speakers, unfortunately. Like so many vintage speakers, the foam or sometimes rubber surrounds on them rot, and the Nova-15s are no different. But I don't think these have the original woofers. All of the ones I saw on the internet have the same style woofer. These are different. So I think somebody put new woofers in these at some point, probably when the original ones rotted away. So in a way, it's a bit of a shame that I don't have the original woofers in these, but it's mostly freaking awesome because I have woofers that are probably gonna work and that aren't rotten. It's a fabric material for the surrounds here, and it's in perfect condition. Very, very cool to see. So we'll take one of these woofers out and see if they have any information printed on the magnet. It also means both of these speakers probably, hopefully, work. Some realistic speakers are known for the drivers actually going bad, like the coil going open circuit or something like that. That was the case with my Minimus 7 speakers, my little speakers that I use with my desktop computer. When I got those, one of them had a bad woofer, and I replaced the woofer. And I have read of instances of these particular speakers having the woofers go open circuit as well. But given that these are, I'm assuming, replacement woofers, that shouldn't be the problem. But yeah, big 8-inch woofer, 2.5-inch tweeter. You got a bass port. If I turn my light on, we can look inside. It's filled with material just as it should. So yeah, very, very cool. Let's lay this thing on its back. Let's get that woofer out and see what we can see. So I pulled the woofer out, and I was a little surprised, to be honest. The first thing I noticed was how easy it was to pull out, and that's because this is a very light 8-inch woofer. If we look on the back here, it's got an absolutely tiny magnet for its size. In fact, I bet the tweeter has a bigger magnet, and I'm not kidding about that. But look at this. It says Claricon, Japan. I've never heard of that. Claricon? I've heard of Clarion. But what is Claricon? Well, I looked it up, and Claricon was a cheap-ish Japanese manufacturer of audio stuff. They made speakers, they made systems, they made CB radios, they made tape decks. Japanese stuff, just kind of on the low end. A lot of people, or what few people I could find who already knew what Claricon is, they described it as good mid-fi stuff. So this is probably not the same grade of speaker that would have originally been in this. But it's an 8-inch speaker. It's in perfect shape. If it doesn't have an open coil, then I bet it'll sound just fine, especially for my ears. It's actually a good thing I pulled this out, because it turns out the dummy who installed this had the wiring backwards. They had the negative to the positive and the positive to the negative. So now I'm going to have to pull the other woofer out of that one and make sure they didn't do the same thing. But yeah, Claricon brand woofer, and I have no idea how old this could be. I found a video on YouTube of somebody who has Claricon, a set of Claricon speakers. They said it was from the 70s and it had the exact same driver in it. So I wonder if this could be from the 70s, or did they just keep making the same drivers for years and years? Don't know, but very interesting. The only other thing written on it is right there. It says, I think that says 23D04. No clue. Let me put this down here. So the next thing I notice is there is not as much foam, or material inside here as I thought there would be. I thought this thing would be just filled with stuffing, but it's not. It's just this, let me see if I can get you inside here. It's just this little mat of stuff, and there's another mat on the bottom. Is there one on the top? No, there's not one on the top. Very thin mat of material. So I want some opinions from people who are more knowledgeable on this than I am, which is not very knowledgeable at all. Should I buy a bag of polyfill and put more stuffing in this? Or should I just leave it be, because presumably this is how Radio Shack designed it to be? The other thing I'm noticing, there is a crossover capacitor. And what that does is that redirects the high frequency sounds. Or no, what this capacitor is doing, the woofer is connected directly to the speaker terminals, but the positive side of the tweeter runs through this capacitor before it gets to the positive terminal. And what this capacitor is doing is it's blocking the low frequency sound from going to the tweeter, and then allows the high frequency stuff to go to the tweeter. And like any vintage capacitors, people recommend that you replace these vintage crossover capacitors. They can negatively affect the sound when they go bad. This is a 4.7 microfarad 50 volt bipolar capacitor. I'm putting in a DigiKey order anyway. I will order some new capacitors to replace the one in each of these speakers. But I'll go ahead and reinstall the woofer. I will connect it correctly this time. We will take out the tweeter and take a look at that too. This must be the original gasket, like from the original driver. It's just crumbling right to pieces, and it wasn't even complete as it was. There was only about a quarter of it in there, so I've just pulled it all out, and I won't reinstall it with the woofer. I'll ask for an opinion again. Should I get some like silicone or something and make a silicone gasket to install the woofer on top of, or is it just fine sitting on top of this as it is? Here's the tweeter, definitely the original. It's the number 0768, 6 ohms, 2 kilohertz to 20 kilohertz, 5 watts nominal, 10 watts maximum. Made in Japan. Yeah, there you go. Quite the power handling from this thing. Magnet's not as big as I thought it would be. I think the tweeters on my Minima 7 speakers are bigger. But, yep, pretty impressive. Here's the other speaker. I just pulled the woofer out. It was wired correctly. So that's kind of funny. Makes me wonder if the previous owner ever wondered why his speakers sounded so bad. Having one wired in out of phase with the other. Well, goodness me, all that's left to do is to actually hook these up to the white trash hi-fi system. So I bought some new cord, which I'll need, and let's set these up, try them out, see if they hopefully work and how well they work. All right, she's all wired in, barring any issues with wiring or spring terminals or whatever. Hopefully both of these speakers work. Let's find out. Oh, heck yeah.
Everybody's behaving here. Nobody's running a light.
So far, so good.
Are they both working? Oh, they're both working. Oh, these sound good.
But the data back up Mietkowski's claims about the danger here.
Oh, these sound excellent. Oh, heck yeah.
Stretch of 10th Avenue running from 14th Street.
Way better than the old Sanyos.
2 miles. Saw 3 pedestrian deaths and more than 150 injuries, as well as...
That's awesome. Oh, I love it. This is great. 2 good speakers. I guess technically I have no idea if the tweeters are working. I think I'd have to like... I don't know if I could do it by injecting a high frequency sound and physically feeling the tweeters, or if I'd have to actually disconnect the woofers. But at any rate, these things sound really good. Well, heck yeah. What a find. Realistic. Nova-15 speakers fitted with replacement woofers at some point in their life. Slightly cheap woofers, but holy crap, do these sound good nonetheless. What a really nice sound out of these. I love them. What a nice upgrade from the Sanyo speakers. So now the question becomes, what do I do with these? They're still perfectly good speakers, and I've always liked the sound of them regardless. I'll make a confession. What I've been tempted to do with one of these is to gut it and use the cabinet for something else. I've always wanted a color organ. A color organ was a very briefly popular home decoration in the 1970s and very early 80s. It was basically a bunch of colored lights controlled by an electronic circuit stuffed inside what was very much a repurposed speaker cabinet. And it had a little microphone on it, or sometimes a dedicated audio input. And the different colored lights would flash in different patterns to the music. I've always wanted one. They're pretty expensive to get on eBay, not very common either. I actually bought a kit, a modern kit to build your own color organ, and I built the kit and it works just fine, but I don't have a cabinet to put it in, and I have no carpentry skills whatsoever. So I've been tempted to gut one of these and make it back into a color organ, but I don't think I'll succumb to that temptation. These are 2 good speakers. If I had just one, I might consider it more, but where I've got a matching pair here, I don't think I want to do that when they are, you know, despite being very cheap and very low power speakers, they are nice speakers regardless. So I don't know. I don't think I have a place in the office that I could use them. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a few bucks for them on Facebook Marketplace, or maybe I'll just put them into storage. Not sure. But, wow, there's something really weird on the rest of that cassette tape. There you go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Very nice to see some very cool, realistic vintage speakers working just fine. Basically restored by a previous owner. Very cool to have, and very happy to have them live here, connected to the White Trash Hi-Fi system. And I'll see you guys in the next video.